you did refer to tariffs, so Pandora, I'll stick with you on that. Meghan weighed into the US tariff drama this week. What does she have to say?
Yeah, isn't that funny how now she's sort of tinkering on the border of politics, but they've still got the title. Yeah, I think she's been very clever in how she's done this, because it does mean, of course, you don't have to be living under a rock this week. Trump has imposed tariffs here, there, and everywhere. Funnily enough, not so much on Russia, but that's another debate. And in China in particular, over 100% tariffs coming from Chinese imports into the US. So yeah, quite extreme. But Meghan has somehow got away with not being hit by these tariffs. Of course, we know now about As Ever, which has been extremely popular. All the products have sold out, whether we're buying them or not. Some people are. And it essentially means that because they're US based, she doesn't have to pay any of these tariffs. But we do know, given history of Meghan and what her and Harry both think about Trump, with all these small remarks that they've made over the years, I'm surprised she didn't go further into it. But no, she won't be hit by it. And of course, all her products are currently sold out anyway. So when she does do the next relaunch, she'll just have to make sure that they are all US based, so she doesn't get hit by it. But no, very, very successful week for Meghan, I think, on the business front, from tariffs to all her products being sold out. I'm thrilled for her, because it's actually working in her favour, and it's something nice to say and positive to say about Meghan. So yes.
I know, and we've spoken several times on this show that if there's one project that she's going to get right, let's hope it's this one, because she definitely needed to get something positive across the line. And then, Louise, then we move on, and it's not necessarily all excellent for Meghan this week, with this comment from comedian Tim Dillon.
Since I'm a little kid, love con artists. I think they're great. I think they're fun. They're an important part of America and the tapestry of our country. They, to me, exude a kind of effortless humor. They're very funny. And I find her to be a great con artist, one of the great cons.
One of the greats.
Louise, it's harsh, no doubt. Sometimes I don't think Meghan necessarily helps herself.
Oh, of course she doesn't. I mean, this is a savage takedown. He really does skewer her hypocrisy, her whole mantra of female empowerment and tackling racial inequality. So other young women, when she was a young woman, she had to suffer all these things, and she doesn't want that pathway for anyone else. And he's saying, well, where's the evidence of this work? What's the change that she's made? How has she empowered these women? Oh, hang on a second. She's selling jam in Target, and she's living in probably the most privileged enclave, certainly in California, if not in the rest of the US. And he calls it one of the whitest neighbourhoods as well. So how does that fit in with her racial narrative? Who knows? But yeah, it was a very savage takedown. And of course, Meghan says one thing and does another. So she does not help herself. And this is what leads to these sort of comedians taking her on, quite happily.
And Pandora, Meghan's podcast has gotten off the ground. We've obviously talked about it ahead of it actually happening. Of course, unsurprisingly, like with most stuff that Meghan does, it has come in for some criticism. But what, in your view, what was the initial showing like? Do you think the criticism is warranted?
Yeah, look, I think I've been pretty open on my stance on this. I think if you're going to dip into Hollywood and do podcasts, or just like when we do commentary, ladies, you're going to have some people who agree with you and you're going to have some people who don't. And ultimately, that is just the way the media works. And her podcast, yes, albeit it was successful, i.e., whatever you take from the word success, it got lots of views, lots of listens, was very much up there. Didn't quite beat Mel Robbins this week, but was, I think, third place or something on Apple Music podcast. So yeah, good for her. She's doing well. But of course, lots of people want the juice and the tea from the royals. And lots of commentators have said, where is this these secrets that we want to know about Meghan. She has got this deal because she is Meghan Markle. We want to know what's happening in her life, whether that not be so much about the royals, but what's happening behind the scenes for her. How is she making things work? Has she got any tips and tricks? But a lot of it is actually interviewing the podcastee who's on it, who, by the way, is brilliant. She's a Bumble founder. She's absolutely fantastic. But people aren't listening to listen to her. They want stuff about Meghan. And lots of people are just saying, well, actually, was that really worth the listen? Because we haven't really found out anything about Meghan, really. So whether it's going to be a success moving forward for the rest of the series, I don't know. Because at the moment, we're not hearing anything new from Meghan's life, which people want to hear about. We're just hearing about female foundry success, which of course is very important. But that's not really why people listen to Meghan, unfortunately.
It is insatiable, the demand for those particular topics. Thank you so much, Pandora Forsyth and Louise Roberts.